him working for the Germans was a double agent move. He was actually working for the British when he was working for the Germans. So you were talking about the Lusitania, and he was actually on the Lusitania multiple times. From just a standard historical point of view, he was working with the Germans. He turned on the British. He was trying to help the Germans to scare the U.S. to not join the war, because the British wanted the U.S. to join the war and join the Allies to help take the Germans down. America didn't want anything to do with the war early on. He goes into the German group that's in New York, and he starts working for this propaganda paper and starts writing for them. So basically their job is to put out propaganda in the U.S., specifically New York, to scare the U.S. citizens to not want to go to war, to not join the Allies. The Germans don't want that because the U.S. has a lot of resources. Well, the British have sent Crowley into work for the Germans. And the job of Crowley is to hype them up enough to blow up the Lusitania, which they had a U-boat that was ready for the Lusitania to come into the British port. It gets better. The day of, the same propaganda paper comes out and says that there's a possible attack. Nobody really gets off the boat but a bunch of elites before the boat leaves. So the boat leaves. As it's pulling into the port, there's a U-boat underneath the water, submarine, hits them with the missile. Now, the way that the Lusitania was built, it was essentially early on built for war, but it really wasn't good for that, because if you hit it in the front, the way that the balance was on the boat, it's going to go down instantly. So it killed a bunch of people, a bunch of Americans, as a matter of fact. So really what that did was hype the Americans up to go to war, not scare them to not go to war. Mm-hmm. That was the point. They needed a catalyst to kill a bunch of Americans, false flag. And Crowley was a part of that. Now, check this out. Because Crowley was so deeply entrenched into occult practices, that fed everything the Germans loved. The Germans loved the occult, and they believed everything Crowley said. Matter of fact, they never questioned once that Crowley was still working for what we would now call MI5, MI6.